Old Mexican Inn is a restaurant in Corsicana, Texas. Corsicana is a suburb of the larger Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's about an hour southeast, big growing city. There's a lot of new signs going in, a lot of new businesses going in Corsicana, and Old Mexican Inn restaurant is going to cater to the people in that area.
Every day we look at signs. Some are beautiful, others not so much. For a business, any business, a good sign is crucial. So where does a good sign come from? Who creates these tantalizing works of art? In the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, it's done right here by the people at Signs Manufacturing, the people we call the Sign Dawgs.
I'm Tim Durkin in the sales department, and the Old Mexican Inn in Corsicana contacted us for a new tall pole sign.
If you don't know, and if you haven't heard me say before, there is no better advertising than a pole sign. They probably get 30,000 cars a day driving by that sign. Putting that pole sign out by the street is going to drive everybody to their restaurant.
They had an existing sign that was small and probably put up back in the 70s or so, maybe even earlier than that. But they came to us. A lot of other sign companies didn't really respond to what they needed, so we put together a program and made it a reality. They wanted to keep that old Mexican theme. There's as you can see from their artwork, that they've got a sort of a vintage, sort of old romantic background, sort of a filigree, that black and red and black. And instead of a white background, they wanted something that looked like parchment or an older weathered sort of background look behind their name, and we achieved that.
You see a lot of signs that are built on the street that are square or rectangular, have all 90-degree turns and all straight edges. And there's a reason for that, because it's less work if I don't have to take these straight pieces and notch them and make them bent into a particular shape. But the downside is, if you go with a rectangle or a square, your sign looks just like everybody else's, so it doesn't stand out. And the goal in signage and marketing in general is you want to stand out and be seen. So what we're going to do with Old Mexican is we're going to do a rectangular sign, but it has a curved top on it, so it has a specific shape that's going to make this sign a lot more noticeable than your typical restaurant box. Another thing you see a lot in the sign industry is companies, they want to go cheap. Sign companies, they want to go cheap, so they make just letters that say Old Mexican, black letters on a white background, and that's it. Really bland, really boring, not much of a marketing tool. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to use our digital prints. The digital print that we have is designed to bring out the color of the printed background that you're doing. Typically what you see in the industry is they print, if they were trying to print red, they print just red on a white background. And what ends up happening is at night when it lights up pink. Well, we do a multi-layered approach that doesn't just do a bunch of red, it actually has multiple colors behind it, and it creates, at nighttime, that red pops. It's red. The yellows are yellow. They're not washed out. It really helps during the evening hours, morning hours, which are your drive time hours. It really helps your digital printed sign stand out. It's really important.
So we have a problem with Old Mexican, and that is, well, it's not really a problem with Old Mexican, it's a problem with our new printer, which is a wonderful printer and does just a beautiful job. But we're having a problem where we print and the print, when we apply it, is bubbling up, and it's really, really annoying, as well as being very expensive, because when it happens, I have to go fix it. So anyway, we're not sure what's causing the problem right now. And we're working with the manufacturer, trying to figure it all out so that we can stop having these darn problems. But we printed Old Mexican and the whole thing bubbled up. It looked like it had the chicken pox. And so, yeah, we'll figure it out.
It seems to be one of the oldest Mexican restaurants in all of Corsicana. A big, well-established family who have prided themselves on really, really good Tex-Mex food in there on a main street right outside of downtown. Inside the restaurant, as you walk in, it feels like a really old restaurant. I'm not saying that negatively. It has an old charm and kind of a dark atmosphere where you feel like you're in your own little world. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's dark, it's got graphics. In my mind, you really feel like you're in an old Mexico.
Another thing that we do is we use a wide range, a broad spectrum lighting when we're doing an LED lighting inside a sign. Most sign companies, they say, yeah, it's LEDs, let's go find some LEDs somewhere. We don't do that. We're very careful and meticulous about testing the LEDs to make sure it's a broad spectrum LED so that the reds are red, the yellows are yellow, the blues are blue. They don't wash out. We don't want a sign to look washed out. We want a sign to be vibrant.
We talked to the manufacturer of the printer, and the manufacturer said, well, why don't you just put a laminate on your print, which means we print the vinyl, put all our print on there, and then we come in with another layer of vinyl and lay it down on top of it and squeeze it together under high heat. And now we're gonna have so much thickness to the material that will no longer bubble. That will probably work. But oh my gosh, can you think of anything more expensive? So we told them, that's not a solution. Give us a real solution. And they're working on it.
So we have our Solar Bright LEDs for the broad spectrum color. We also have our Solar Guard clear coat that we put over the face of the digital print. I always talk about it like it's sunscreen for your sign. It makes that digital print stay looking new. Keeps it from turning black, which I'm sure you've seen these black digital prints that the sun just sucks all the color out of them. And it keeps them from peeling up along the corners. It's a great product, and I would never put up a sign without, especially a digital print, without Solar Guard. Because we are very focused on the marketing aspect of the signage for our customers, one of the things that we'll do when you call Signs Manufacturing and you say, hey, I'm opening up a restaurant in Corsicana, one of the things that we'll do is we will check out what the traffic count is on that street. And we'll show it to you, and we'll go over what the ordinance is, what we can do in your city, what we're allowed to do as far as the size and how close to the street and that sort of thing. And we'll also look at how many people drive by in front of your business every single day to look at that sign, so that we can determine, is your best marketing dollar spent on that sign out by the street? Or maybe not. Maybe it's not, maybe not. Maybe what you really need to do is just make a sign that looks really pretty. Maybe it's not important to really stand out because you don't get a lot of traffic. Old Mexican gets a lot of traffic in front of that business. That sign needs to be big.
Good news, we figured out what the problem was with the ink. Turns out that the ink expands and contracts at a different rate from the vinyl that it's applied to. So as it gets warmer outside, the ink will expand, everything does, and so will the vinyl, but they do it at different rates. And that means that it actually can be enough of a difference that it will pull the vinyl up right off what it's attached to, thus creating a bubble. So the solution to the problem is that we need to reduce the amount of ink that we're using. And we did that, and beautiful. Why couldn't they have told us that when they trained us? Go figure.
Have you ever seen one of those pole signs that is just kind of leaning now? At some point it was straight, but now it just kind of leans over like that. It's not a good look. Doesn't look good for the business, doesn't look good for the sign company that did it. We never have that problem. Over 40 years we've been doing this, and even 40 years ago we engineered all of our signs well over what cities, if they had a requirement, would require. Back in the 80s, I think the requirement for most cities in Dallas-Fort Worth was 60-mile-an-hour winds. And we obviously did more than that. We always went up to 100-mile-per-hour winds. Now, I think the city requirements are, it's like 90 or 100 generally in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we do 130. We always over-engineer the signs because we never want to have that problem of a sign leaning. We are marketing focused. We're looking at what's best for the business. And a sign that's leaning like that, well, not only being dangerous, just as it's not good marketing for the business.
When people are hungry, they're trying to make a decision, and they're looking at every sign they can to help them decide. And they wanted to be up in the front and stand out from their neighbors. So I did notice there were quite a few Mexican restaurants in Corsicana, but I think they wanted to maintain that look of being sort of the most established or the leader in that category. Well, we mentioned it's a family-owned business, and I think they may own several other companies, but mainly it's the Julius Flores family. He was one of the people I met with first off. He's still obviously the leader there, and his son and his daughter were all very instrumental to put together the whole plan. And he is a classic gentleman and businessman who I enjoyed working with.